Well, this morning we are talking royal weddings, but probably not the one you're thinking of. This was long before Harry and Meghan. There they are, remember that? Long before Will and Kate, and well before Charles and Diana, and Charles and Camilla. There came the mother of all matriarchs. In 1947, then Princess Elizabeth married Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten, which is partly where this next book picks up. The new book, The Gown, tells the fascinating backstory of the small but mighty team hand-stitching the wedding dress for Her Royal Highness. The book is fictional, but it is based in fact, and author Jennifer Robson is here with us this morning. So good to have you here.
Thank you.
I was saying to you, this is the book where I read it and kept thinking, can't wait to give this to my mom. It's such a good read.
Thank you very much. And I've had a lot of reactions like that from people where they say, I love the book so much and I'm buying another copy for my mom. And I think, is there an award in the world that could mean more than that? No, there isn't.
I like all the historical fact that you've also placed into it. And it's interesting that we were talking about such a cold winter day today, and that's the opening scene of your book. It takes place in Britain post-war on one of the coldest winters in memory.
Yeah. And that's what characterized the post-war period. And I think it's easy to forget. We kind of, our memories, certainly mine were, they stop at VE Day. Where you have all the great celebrations and this wonderful relief. The war is over, at last it's over. And then we kind of jump ahead to the 50s where everything is bright and technicolor. And we miss that period in the late 1940s when life was really grim, in Europe in particular, and in Britain where there are ruins everywhere. There was rationing that continued for years. Life was really difficult. And in the middle of all of that came this royal wedding in November 1947. And it was just such a break from the misery, I think. So the people of Britain embraced it. And I wanted to go beyond. I wanted to find out what were the stories behind the scenes of the royal wedding. And that led me to the women who made the dress.
What is also great about this book is Canada plays such a prominent role, and we forget that we would have been seen as very privileged in that post-war period. We weren't living with rations at the time.
No. And it was, you know, the Britain, even though technically they had won the war, I think a lot of people living in Britain at the time were thinking, well, where's the proof? I can't buy new clothing. Clothing was rationed. Food was rationed. Fuel was rationed. And then they had this terrible winter that was not so dissimilar to a Canadian winter, making everyone even more miserable.
Let's talk about The Gown, because that's the title of the book. And this is about Princess Elizabeth's gown and the 4 women who were responsible for embroidering those incredible flowers that we saw on the dress and on the train. And we have to get in as many pictures as we can.
It was just this, I've spoken of it before as being made out of stardust. And that's, I think, what it must have felt like to the people who saw it, especially also the people who worked on it. So there was a small group of embroiderers at Norman Hartnell's salon who worked on the dress. Their names have been lost to history. No one interviewed them at the time. The records have more or less been lost. So I went in and I added my characters I slotted them into history. But I still had all these questions when I was doing the research as to what life was like at Hartnell. What was it like to work there? And it was only near the very end of my research when, to be honest, I was panicking and thinking, I can't make this stuff up. I have to know. I have to know what it was like to work there. And I came across this amazing woman called Betty Foster, who was one of the seamstresses who worked on the gown. She didn't do the embroidery. She actually helped us sew the gown.
And this is her?
She's one of my favorite people in the world. And she's so beautiful. And no one can believe looking at her picture. She is 91 years old.
Wow.
I know. I did ask if there's a cream she's been using or something. And it's just good living and being a genuinely lovely person, I think. But she was one of the women who worked on the gown. And she shared with me all of her memories, and she remembers everything, and she kept an amazing scrapbook as well.
Look at this veil. It's incredible.
It was incredible. It was the chance as an historian to meet somebody who lived through that moment in history is something I'll never forget.
It is about weddings and gowns and women and history. It is a fantastic read. It's called The Gown. Thanks so much for coming in to talk about it.